All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 4 to 4. This week it is just me, Peter, and Callaway. Our last episode, which hopefully you just listened to, is with Lauren Carlini. She is a beast, great setter, great mind, really fun to talk to. So go check out that episode with her. As for this week, a couple of things before we get started. We are finalized with ECV and getting some of our gear in. So me, Callaway, and Peter have officially gotten the long sleeve in that we're going to be selling. It's not up on their store yet, but it'll be up on their store probably within the next week or two, maybe 3 weeks. But we're going to keep you guys updated on Instagram. We're going to do posts, some giveaways. So make sure you check in, follow us on Instagram at 4.2.4, letters two, not number. And then, yeah, so that's all for now. What's up, guys? How we doing?
Chilling, man. Trying to get back at it. Another episode. We got Pete on today. We're excited to have Peter back.
I know it's been forever, Peter. Been busy out there with Grand Canyon.
Yeah, been busy, but it's been fun. I'm glad to be able to be back with you boys, and it's always great to see your beautiful faces. So yeah, I'm doing good, guys. I'm doing well.
Sweet.
Good stuff. Well, I feel like we should kick off with Peter just diving in about his how the season's going for him. First season for Big Pete as a coach.
Yeah,
it's been so fun, man. Honestly, like the first match that we had against McKendree, I was nervous. Like, not as nervous as my freshman year because I was literally shaking the first match I got in. But yeah, I was like pretty nervous. I felt like I was like getting ready to go play again. So it was a lot of fun. Boys played really well against McKendree. We swept that weekend. We won in 4 both nights. McKendree's got a solid team, man. They play really, really hard. And Nikki, Coach Nikki's doing a great job out there.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, they got a good coaching staff, and actually, yeah, dude. Quick side note, Janice, I met her, and I was like, yeah. You see, all right, awesome. I know Brandon and Alexis, so that was a really cool, example of the small, the closeness of the volleyball community, which was pretty nice. But
I was gonna ask if you met her because I knew that she was going there, obviously, and then we were playing that weekend too, or we were busy that weekend, so I didn't get to watch her check in with you. But I was like, damn, I wonder if they met or talked at all. But I know Janice is super outgoing and will talk to anybody, so it's she definitely went up and said hi.
Yeah,
Callaway met her at Wapaka too. She was at Wapaka. She was the tall middle that was hanging out with us a bunch of her sisters. Okay. She's super nice though. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've got a great coaching staff, and they played hard, they played well. It was a really close match. We won in 4. Our team played really well, and we had actually had an injury. We had a guy step in that I think he got his first playing time of his career, and he played really well off the bench, and that's not easy to do. And then I went this weekend, went back to my old stomping grounds at Penn State, and got beat up pretty bad, but I think it's a good learning example, and it's a good thing. Obviously, if you have to lose the way that we lost, you want that happening early in the season. So yeah, the guys have been, the last 2 days in practice have been really fired up, and I think you can tell that they want to get better. So moving in the right direction. Got another good match coming up against UCSD. They're ranked 8th. We're ranked 6th, so that'll be a really tough match on Friday.
Yeah.
So.
Big test. Absolutely. It's crucial to see. It's like those make or break games after you lose a bad one when you're a good team. Is it going to derail your season, or are you going to let it motivate you for, to get it all back for the remainder of the season? So good luck to you guys on that.
Yeah. Appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Definitely good luck. I know I've talked to you a lot about it, Pete, with your, in terms of the weapons that you guys have. And we've talked about Penn State too. And obviously Callaway knows some of the guys at Penn State still. So I knew they were going to be good, but it was still it was shocking when I was seeing the score reports when I would wake up, and it's BYU destroyed. You guys, not destroyed. You guys put up a better fight than BYU, I think, but you guys still got swept in 3. They're Penn State is smoking. We were talking about this a little bit before. It's also not your typical Penn State that you see. It's every time that I knew Penn State, Peter, I mean, when you were playing,
It's probably a good idea.
It was, yeah, it was Aaron at 6'9". Like you're like six, like everybody was huge. Callaway's year was like fucking Seifert and all these other big dudes. And now this year, they're all like a bunch of small, crafty guys, which obviously is working. But I mean, also to be fair, Cal and Brett are like two of the most explosive people you'll find in all of volleyball right now. So right there,
Yeah,
kind of
they're
size doesn't
solid.
matter,
Those two guys. Yeah,
but
those guys are solid.
yeah, very good. I also wanted Peter, what was it? Did it feel like old Penn State? Like what was the feeling like going into Penn State? Because
Yeah.
you've been to Penn State multiple times since you've been there to games after you've played and you've already been a bit removed from the team. But this is your first time going into Rec Hall wearing different colors, helping another team out. So what was that kind of like?
I mean, it was interesting for sure, but I mean, overall, it was a lot of fun. I mean, like going into serve and pass and stuff, just getting to see Pav and giving him a big hug, and Colin and Ryan, like just two former coaches and then a guy that was an alum. So obviously Matt, like we knew him back when we were there, and so it was just really cool getting to see like Cody still there, like doing the equipment room, and just like you see some of these like old faces that like you used to see every single day that were really really close. So it was really cool to see that. But then like once the match was started, it was obviously like, all right, I'm all GCU, like it's us versus them right now. So obviously it didn't go the way that I had hoped. Definitely wanted to at least get one of those matches like going into the weekend, but yeah, I mean they've got a really solid team. Like you guys said, it's a little bit atypical of Penn State to be like undersized a little bit, and I think honestly that's probably the way that if there's a team that can control the ball the way Penn State does and run an offense the way that they do and serve like they do, they don't miss serves either. They really keep it in play and like keep the pressure on you. And if there's a team that can do that has size, I think that's the team that's probably going to beat Penn State. But man, they just stayed in system so consistently and kept constant service pressure on us, and we just couldn't handle it.
That's kind of how they were able to pressure Lewis last year too. If you guys watched that playoff game, I was fortunate when over here I was able to catch it somewhere late at night, but it was the same thing like you just said. The only like Lewis beat them, but they beat them because Lewis had a lot of really good control too. They were missing a little bit more serves than Penn State for sure, but their serve receive was perfect other than Brett Wildman hitting like 5 aces. But other than that, they were passing dimes, and they're just massively bigger than Penn State was last year. But isn't BYU big? They're big this year, right?
They're decently sized. They had a lot of guys missing from what I've heard, though. So I don't know.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
I saw the score and I was like, not that I don't have faith in Penn State or whatever, but I know they've had a few more off years as far as Penn State goes. In the last 4 or 5 or so. And I just saw the BYU was a really good team last year. I was like, dang, like did BYU lose a lot of people? Or
also though, BYU did lose Gabby.
Yeah.
The Puerto Rican right side who's now playing in Italy. So that's probably a big loss for them.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I figured the preseason rankings, they're right there. So I was like, dang, like Penn State really showed up to play. I wonder, I'd like to be inside that locker room, like post-match, and see what that team culture is like and how it's kind of developed since I've left. It'd be fun to watch, but I was going to say something, but it all just sounded in my head like the dumbest, like no shit stuff. But in regards to just like, Penn State's just putting on consistent service pressure and they have like really good ball control. They're keeping you in system. It's like, yeah, I don't know, like that. I don't like that. You can't teach height phrase or something like that. It's like, yeah, but like if you're just recruiting people off being big, like that puts a lot of stress on you as a coaching staff. And then these kids that just like aren't, maybe they don't pan out or something like that. Just because they are tall doesn't necessarily mean they can figure out the game and all that stuff. So I'm glad Penn State's going away from just recruiting tall people, because that's what it felt like for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely a fine balance. And I think the men's game kind of steps over that line of just like trying to rip too many serves a little bit too often. Is my biggest pet peeve as a middle is just like miss serve, like, and then I'm out. And it's just like, damn. I am not getting a read on their setter. Like I don't feel like a flow of the match when, you know, people are missing serves, and it's like, all right. And then when you're down or you've missed 4 in a row, then it's a meatball in there. And okay, now they're running 4 guys at me. It's like, fuck, I'd rather you just serve all of them in underhand. And then at least I can read the offense over time. But when it's like a bunch of missed and easy serves and you're down, it's just like, Jesus, this is going to be a really hard match to win.
Yeah, and it's at that point it seems like very mental as well, and you can feel the pressure that they're kind of throwing your way, and so that's kind of what it felt like, I think, a little bit, you know, this weekend. But we hit some really, really tough serves, and they just handled it, you know, not too you know, like it was almost nothing. So they're solid. But think about it as well, I think like Pav does a good job. We were always doing like serving and passing, and I think that's always been an emphasis, like with that team. We just dedicated a lot of time serving and passing, which I don't know, it's 2 of the most important skills, at least the most fundamental in the game.
I'll say it 100 times out of 100. If you win the serve pass game, you win the match. Like literally 100 out of 100 times.
Probably, yeah.
If someone is like, if you take the passing average, I guarantee the winning team had like either a higher passing average or less aces and more, like less aced against errors and more aces. Like if all those stats are in your favor, you won the match 100 times out of 100.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, unless you got like the worst hitters imaginable.
I guess.
And the other thing,
then,
with that being
man,
said,
I don't know,
is like at that level where, I mean, both you guys and Penn State are top 10 ranked teams. Like to be putting in, like you said, with their consistency and serve and reception, like they're also, when you think about just consistency with service, like whenever a lot of people think of like a consistent serve that you're putting in, a lot of people are thinking like, oh, like they're 70-75%, like let me get it in the court. Like at that level, we're top 10 ranked, like you're getting like 70-mile-an-hour plus jump serves, like float serves that are coming cross court, like painting a line, and they're in. So it's like, it's not just like they're making a lot of their serves. It's like they're making their serves with a lot of power and like a lot of trouble. Yeah. It's like, dude, being serve receive in like gyms like that are not fun. It's very, very challenging.
And I think, honestly, I think like a good team has a good balance of that, where you have maybe like 1 or 2 guys, like for instance, maybe like Wildman and Fisher, where there's maybe they're saying like, hey, green light, you guys have a good serve. If it's a good enough toss and you're feeling it, be aggressive. And if you miss, it's fine, because when you keep it in, you'll be getting them way out of system. You'll be getting aces, whatever. And then you have that mix of like maybe directional float or directional jump servers, where it's a more like, let's chop this ball to the seam or do something more location with it, directional with it, and float serves. But those guys are just smart with it, and they don't miss their serves, and they don't make it too easy. It's a kind of a balance where they know they're going to keep it in, but it's also decently aggressive. Maybe you even just go after like the weak passer and make them have to repeat over and over and over again. Because that's tough to do. I think like just in terms of having that mental toughness, passing's got to be the most difficult thing, because you get aced once and it's like you got to go right back and make another pass. So that pressure can really amount quick.
That led me into something I want to ask you guys that just made me think of that. So specifically when you were talking about targeting the weaker passer to put the pressure on them, obviously makes perfect sense. Because I want to get your guys' view on this, because my coach in Denmark last year used to really enjoy doing this, which is kind of the opposite. Obviously, if there was somebody who was really shit at passing, we were serving him the whole time. But if they were generally a relatively balanced team in terms of passing from their libero and their 2 outsides, so it's pretty even keel, he would always have a serve at whichever their outside was stronger. So one of the teams that we played had like the best outside hitter in the league last year. His name was Irvin. He was this guy from Canada. He actually played for Düren in Germany the year before. And he was really good, super explosive, like clapped balls. But when we would play him, we would always pass him on his inside to try to make him pass and swing. So we were hoping to like wear him down over the match. So what's your guys' theory on that? Like, would you be more of a person targeting the better player to wear them out, or targeting the weaker player?
Callaway, I'll let you go with that one first.
Well, I mean, I think that's I think there's a lot of strategies you can go in like throughout the game, so if we're talking serving specifically, I think it's a good idea to, whatever your game plan is, I think serving wise, if it's to go after the worst passer, just do it the whole game, like stick to it, do not change that up. But if it's more like, it depends on the rotation, or you want to tire someone out also, like don't, like the point of that strategy is to just go at them relentlessly. So if it doesn't work at first, my inclination is to stick with it, because if you can make it go 4 or 5 sets, then you're going to be in a really good spot, and that guy's going to be absolutely spent. So yeah, I think that's a good strategy. I think picking their typically the worst passer is a good strat.
You're saying whatever you go with, you got to kind of commit for the whole match. I mean, obviously,
I think when it comes to serving, I think, and one of the things I had brought to Colin at Penn State when we were there, I was like, hey, I think we come in with a really good game plan as far as like the whole scouting report goes. But then, after the first or second set, the other team would then change their game plan that they typically go into the match. And we weren't very good at adjusting to their new game plan mid-set or mid-match, So I think it kind of depends when you need to stick with it, but like that's where the coaching comes in, and talking with leaders on the court and what they're seeing. But yeah, I mean, there's so many statistics and analytics that go into sports now. So I think even when I was in Estonia, my coach was really good at breaking down all the statistics and rotations, and he would have us serve like, in certain rotations where the setter would have to track the ball over his head, he like wouldn't set. He would only set a certain person if he had to track the ball over his head off the pass. So he only served where that pass would come over his head. So, I mean, there's so many different statistics and things that you can really look at. And I think it's from a coaching standpoint, it's like, all right, well, what's the balance of like utilizing all this data that we have now versus like natural instinct and just like the flow of the match. I think if you get too much on the numbers, then you can kind of hinder your ability to play, because maybe there's like X factors that you can't calculate the X factor, certain players that like get hot during a match with their leadership skills and things like that. But I don't know if I answered your question at all, because that was kind of all over the place, but
it was all over the place. No, good information.
Yeah, I think it kind of just depends on like what your strategy is. Like if it is a long-term strategy where it's, hey, I think if we just continuously put like, constant pressure on this in particular passer, he's going to break eventually. You can't go ahead and like serve the first 3 balls and be like, oh, well, like fuck that plan, let's go over here.
Oh,
like,
he nailed all 3 and sided out all 3, right? Yeah. You don't want to give up after that.
Yeah, you've got to stay on him. But if your game plan, I mean, it might be like rotation by rotation, like you said, get into the analytics a little bit and just say, hey, like they like to run the pick in this rotation. Let's serve short on this guy, make him have to come up and pretty much take him out of the bit, something like that. Or you could go ahead and, I don't know, maybe you're saying, this was one of my favorites as a float server, was if there were, 2 outsides next to each other, I'd go ahead and just hit a ball like right in the seam, and where maybe it floated something weird and there was some sort of confusion, and that usually created a good situation. So like I guess it really just depends on what you want to do with the game plan.
Fair. All right, cool. I don't know why it just popped in my head. I was like, "Oh, that was an interesting question."
I think we could probably talk like hours and hours about different types of strategies and when they'd be useful. But it's just like many things in volleyball, that I've noticed more now that I coach and kids ask me questions. It's like what went wrong there, and it's like, well, like what part are you talking about? What went wrong? Like the point that the fact that we didn't get the point, or like, at the beginning of you didn't get a transition deep enough, like there's so many little things that happen throughout an entire rally. And it could be like you didn't transition enough, or you didn't bring your arm all the way up, or you let the ball drop on your attack, or, like their blocker did this on that. There's not ever an exactly repeated thing, there's so many different variables that could come into play. So
yeah,
it's tough.
It's the butterfly effect, right? Like something small ends up leading to like bigger outputs, basically.
Yeah, definitely. All right, sweet. Well, good little insights from Division I coach Peter, and club high school dominant coach in Chicago, Callaway. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Next that I wanted to step into was Mount Olive, George Mason. So obviously we're currently just broke through our, not our first. This wasn't the first. This past weekend wasn't the first weekend, but the one before was the first weekend, right? Yeah.
Yeah, second
It's like
weekend.
the first.
Yep.
This was the past second weekend, but NCAA match has been firing off. Some have had issues with COVID. I know Charleston hasn't played their first match yet because of COVID issues. But Mason went down to Mount Olive, and I actually talked with Paul a bit before they went down. And it's funny when I was telling him, because when I was in college, Barton was stacked. They beat GCU when I was there. They beat USC. They were beating top ranked teams on the West Coast. I can't remember. They were loaded, and Mount Olive was like at, I think, their worst. Like every team that they played, they got beat out of conference for sure, and they got beat down pretty bad in conference. So I was like, oh, I don't, like obviously I don't know too much about it now, but talked to Paul, and I was like, well, Paul, go handle business. You got to beat down on Conference Carolinas as Mason. And then I find out that they lose in 5 sets, which is insane, man. I think that's the first time Mason has dropped to a Conference Carolina team in their history. But I did speak with Paul a little bit after, and I messaged him after. I was like, what happened? And he was like, oh, they're good. He was like, they are a solid team. He was like, we didn't like play bad. He was like, they beat us. Apparently, from what I've heard, is they have some outside on their team that's on Australia's national team and like traveled, was at the VNL this past summer or something like that. So apparently Mount Olive's dirty, which I haven't heard anybody talk about anywhere. I've never heard a prediction of them being good. So that's why I think I was so shocked. But from what I've heard is apparently they're filthy this year.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to him a little bit yesterday. He was saying the same thing. So, I mean,
because also Mason's a good team this year. Like it's not like they're having like a down year. Like Mason still has a solid squad. They're a bit younger. They graduated a couple of their veterans, but like they still have their setter that's been there for like 10 years. I don't know. I felt like he was like a junior when I started college, and now he's still there. But yeah, they're still like a solid team. So when I heard that, I was like, damn, man. But that's exciting. I want to see Mount Olive slap around some other teams.
It's always good whenever those like surprising matches happen. I think it's good for the sport. But
also, and sorry to cut you off again, Peter.
Yeah.
I also think it's great because I was at like a smaller Division I school too. I mean, we're school's Division II, but we played Division I, and it's like every time whenever we would go to like the big tournaments or something, and there's like Hawaii, Penn State, and all these other big teams, they like walk around, all big shouldered and all puffed up with all their fancy gear and their fancy buses. So when they get like backhanded from like a Conference Carolina team, I love it. I like when Barton
tail between the leg.
Yeah, when Barton smacked down on those West Coast teams last year or 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, give them a taste of their medicine, smack them around. It's sweet.
It's good. It's good for the sport, like I said. But I mean,
I'll apologize ahead of time. Oh yeah, go finish your thought.
No, I was just
interrupt you as well.
I was just gonna say they've got a good match coming up. I mean, if maybe that wakes them up for Mason, and they're playing Ball State and Purdue Fort Wayne. Ball State, I want to say, still ranked 15th. So I mean, that's still like a pretty good test for them, and see if they're using that as a wake up call. But
yeah, definitely. What were you gonna say, Callaway?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, apologize ahead of time because like, sorry, California teams, but I feel like so many of them are just like so arrogant and stuff, man. It made me so angry all the time. So yeah, I love watching them lose to somebody that they just had no idea that they were gonna walk into a gym and have like a real competitive match and just get shit on.
It's like they walk in.
So sorry, California teams. You're not all like that, but sometimes you are.
They walk in, they give them the business. Oh man, I know, and But I mean, but Mason never really had too many issues with Mason. Kind of sucks actually, because I really like Jay, and I don't really like Paul, but he's related to Peter, so I want him to do good. But no, I'm sure. I mean, with how good of a coaching staff they have over at Mason, it's not like it's worrisome at all. But it is interesting. It's cool to see.
Teams. Yeah, I mean, well, we'll see. Mountain Hop's 2-0 right now, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There's a lot of undefeated teams right now.
Do you have their
obviously.
schedule pulled up next to you, Callaway? I want to see who else they play.
I don't have the schedule. I have the rankings right now and all the conference standings.
Gotcha. Well, Rifle.
That's what I got.
No, it's kind of early. It's not really.
No, what do you want? What do you want to know?
I was gonna say Conference Carolina's rankings because now I'm curious. Like, if Mount Olive is like this, is anybody else coming out there that's gonna smack down? Peter, do you guys have Mount Olive on your schedule?
I don't. I can't see who all has played, but Belmont Abbey's 3-0, Mount Olive's 2-0, North Greenville 1-0, Emmanuel 1-0, King 1-1, Leeds McRae 0-1, Barton 0-1, Erskine 0-4.
Erskine. I also want to talk about some of that. Yeah, they got beat down a little bit, but there's only a few minutes left on this one, so I don't want to dive into this yet, but I want to get into the Erskine stuff really bad because it's not like crazy stuff, but like there is an interesting historical thing, I guess, that occurred from Erskine this weekend. But so we were talking about Erskine because you had mentioned that they were like 0-4 or something in their conference. I saw.
Yeah, tell me about it. I don't know anything about it.
Or not in their conference, actually. They, like Peter said, they flew out west and they were playing huge teams. I mean, teams that are just high cap. They played Long Beach State, Pepperdine, I think UCSD, or I can't remember, maybe UCLA. I don't know, but they were playing really good teams. Like they put up a good fight. Their coach seemed pretty happy with what they did at the trip, even though they lost. Like those are really high, top-ranked teams with really good players. So. Kudos to them for making that trip out there. I did it my freshman year and we got our shit pushed in. So it's not like I got room to talk, but I know it was a good experience for me. So I think it'll be good for them too. But I was then on Off the Block and I saw that they had posted some like history made kind of thing. Like it's like one of those stupid stats, like when you watch the NFL and it's like Tyreek Hill, the first guys to catch 3 touchdowns in 3 minutes under the height of 5'5". And it's like, okay, that's like the dumbest historical stat. But Erskine apparently they were the first team to play like 2 matches in the same day in a different arena or something like that. So they played in the morning in LA. I can't remember who they played against. Or maybe it was in Irvine. I don't know. But they played somebody and then they drove 28 miles. They played them at 10 a.m. The game finished at like 12 or 1. They got food, went to the hotel, and then they drove like 28 miles up to Pepperdine to then play Pepperdine at 6 p.m. So they got back to their hotel at 1 o'clock and had to be like in Pepperdine's gym starting warm-ups at like 4 o'clock probably or something like that. But they went back to back on the same day, playing a couple hours after the other, which is
go ahead, Pete.
I was just gonna make a joke. They probably like barely got there in time with that LA traffic.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. It's 30 miles, and it said on the interview, it said they were coming from LA to Pepperdine to Callaway. If you can see who they played, let me know because I don't know who they played before Pepperdine. But I was like, dude, could you imagine playing a match in the morning, sitting in 30 miles of LA traffic to get to Pepperdine? And then you get to Pepperdine where you have to walk in and face Jalen Jasper and some of the absolute not meatheads, but monsters that they have on that team. Like, oh, that's like not a great day.
It was wow. It was Pep on Friday, January 14th at 10 p.m. and 12 p.m. they played USC in the morning.
That's set to your time zone. That's why it's saying that.
Oh, well, whatever. Whatever, fine. 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. That works too.
Yeah, so who it was Pepperdine in the morning and then
Pep and SC. It was SC in the morning, Pep at night.
That's what it was because they were in LA at SC and then they had to drive.
I would be pissed. I would be pissed that I even was put in that situation to play. Like these are already 2 good teams. We're already across the country to come play them. And yeah, sure, let's do a doubleheader and drive and sit in traffic all day. Like I got mad when we played Ohio State in the middle of the week. We always lost. I was like, maybe if we actually like made a trip and went on the weekend and actually prepared appropriately and didn't get 0 sleep, we'd have a chance of fucking winning. Maybe, like I get you're trying to get the schedule going, but like, holy fuck. Are you kidding me? You're setting your team up for failure. That's no shit. They lost both games. Oh my God.
I love that.
Jesus, think about the athletes for once. God damn it, you fucking selfish pigs.
This is gonna be a
coming
great
for you,
clip.
Erskine coach.
It's gonna be a great
Jesus
clip.
Christ. What is that?
Wow, Callaway's pissed. That does suck though, dude. That would be brutal because we did the same thing. When we played GCU my senior year, we played 10 a.m. UC Irvine, and then we played you guys at 6 p.m. Also, though, we were kind of in a screwed position there because we weren't really in the whole know-how, and it wasn't translated to us that we were playing those matches on the same day from our coach. And UC Irvine thought our 10 a.m. was a friendly. They didn't think it was for regular season schedule. So that was dicey. But we at least played both at Grand Canyon. I couldn't imagine having played like UC Irvine that morning and having to drive 30 miles and get prepped, dude. That would be, oh man, that's insane.
Yeah, dude, I'm just not gonna lie. I think we're just beyond the time of like grit and just athletes having to persevere through stuff. I'm like, what athletes have to do that anymore? Like at the top level, they're all completely babied. So I don't know why we're making people that are like trying to make it to that point go through hell and like not properly warm up and potentially ruin their career. Like we're past that. I just feel like at this point, if we weren't, then pros would not be playing, not play half the season and all this shit, you know, like in rest days. So like, if you can't schedule it and it's going to be something that makes sense, and just like, it's probably not worth being on the schedule. I feel very firmly about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to wonder though, like it's probably a budgeting thing. Like they have to kind of like force these things in. Maybe they don't have the time to
that's my point. It's forced
to get out to California. And so
they don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. In general, I just think like as an athlete that just put their body through the ringer and is like, you know, and so many athletes do and have, I think we should just completely move away from that direction. Like, I don't know what it used to make me so mad when Pat would be like, "You're still young." I'm like, "Pat, I'm a 5th-year senior. My legs fucking can barely walk up the stairs every day."
Dude, I mean,
I'm not going to tough this out.
I remember playing PVL and I was like, how the hell did I ever play in tournaments with like multiple matches? Like I was like, what is this?
Going back to the adult after? Dude, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I did adult nationals. Yeah, it sucks.
I did adult nationals May after I graduated. So like 4 weeks after I graduated. I was also fresh out of my senior year. I was in pretty good shape. But dude, nothing prepares you for a 3-minute warm-up of bouncing balls on Sportsplex on a concrete hard floor in a convention center to then go and play 8 matches in one day.
Oh, dude, I was hurting some kind of way after Pottstown too. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I can't even walk after grass tournaments anymore. I'm like, oh, this is bad. How do people play all day?
Honestly, it's not like the soreness for me. It's whenever it's like super hot. When I get like really
dehydration.
Yeah, when it's like 95 and I'm like, man, I spent way too many of those tournaments sunburnt, bro. I will not wear sunscreen anymore. You get sunburnt one day and you woke up to play day 2. You got to dive in that grass. It's the worst fucking feeling. I would never do it again. I used to be, dude, I was such a stupid, naive young kid of like, I'm a kid. I'm going to get tan and fucking run out there. And I don't want to be the loser with sunscreen on my face. Bro, now I'm like, I don't care. I'll be sweating out sunscreen. I don't give a shit. In between sets, I'm running over, hitting me spray can a couple of times.
Yeah, being cool is just not a thing when you get older. You're like, oh, that's
overrated. Overrated.
That shit didn't even matter. Why did I care about that stuff?
Yeah, but that's always easy. Always easy to say hindsight. I will say, I don't think Peter ever cared about being cool. I felt like Peter has been a dad since the day he was born. Peter has never dude, Peter, the first like grass tournament I ever went to you with, you just seemed so oblivious to the existence of others. Like you knew they were there, but there was like, I mean, Peter, you could not have given a shit less. I loved it. I love it.
Dude, I don't know. I'm a weird dude. I think everybody's a little bit weird in their own way. So I don't know. I embrace it.
He's unapologetically Peter, and
exactly. But yeah, I thought that was crazy. When I saw that, I was like, damn, I gotta share this. And their coach did an interview on it. Like he didn't really like, I listened to most of the interview, but I can't remember it too well. I just remember he was like, yeah, just some things happened. We got scheduled like this. And then but he just kept talking about how the guys handled it well. He was like, they did the rehab, or athletic trainer did really good at handling them well. Not that he was necessarily deflecting it, but I think he did a really good job at pointing out the positives that came out of it, and not, the negatives, at the fact that they probably could have been more prepared. But I know when I saw it, I was like, damn, dude, that's insane. And again, also, like, they're a smaller team. They're not going to be, they don't get as high of level as recruits as all the West Coast teams that are Division One. Like, why are you going to, you're like Callie, like you said, you're just putting yourself, you're already the underdog in the match, and now you're putting yourself like deeper in a hole. So I don't get that. Like, if you're going to, again, if it is budget, cut one match out. Like, don't play that extra match. It's just going to, I don't think it's any benefit, like, to go out there and just get destroyed when your body's also then ripped and you just played a match earlier. Like, cancel the 10 a.m. Don't play USC, or if you want one or the other, cancel the other.
Like, I'm semi kidding about, like, when I really went hard into it, but like at the same time, like, I'm sure there's tons of factors that go into everything, and there's going to be teams at the bottom of the league, and any sports situation or league, there's bottom of the league teams and top of league teams.
Definitely.
So like there's going to be worse teams, but I don't know. Like, to me, if it just, some things just don't make sense. It's like, okay, like, are we trying to play volleyball here? Are we trying to like win games? Like, are we just trying to be a program, or like, what's the end goal? And like, it's always been very hard for me to be on a team that doesn't want to be competing at the highest level. Like that, for me, I'm like, what am I even doing if I'm not like, and that's what it was in Romania. I had a bunch of guys that were like, no, we're like, okay, at the middle of the league. I was like, what? I'm like, this is a bad idea for me to be here then, because like, this is not okay. I'm going to be very unhappy the whole time because half my team literally doesn't care about winning. I'm like, that's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they care about it when they're losing games, but then at the end of the day, they're like, they don't want to work hard in practice. So if I'm a kid that's busting his balls in practice every day, and then I'm being put into a situation like that, playing back-to-backs and driving all day, I'm freaking mad, man. I would be pissed. Like I said, I was mad when we would do that stuff and didn't get proper warm-ups and all that stuff, because then I'm expected to go perform, and then I get reamed when I don't. It's like, that's shitty. That's a shitty situation to put a kid in. So I'm not for it. If you're doing that at your school, stop it. And rant.
Well, good news is I don't think their coach reamed them out after that. So at least I didn't get reamed out afterwards.
Yeah, if you didn't say my fucking bad, then my bad, guys.
He walks in, he gets smoked in 3. He walks in, he goes, all right, fuck. My fault. Fuck me.
We're not doing that again.
Yeah. He's like, get your shit, get in the van.
Oh God, yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mouth off to the wrong guy, and I'm just gonna get punched in the face one of these days for sure. But
I'm gonna tag them. I'm gonna cut that clip of you cussing out their coach. I'm gonna tag them. I'm gonna be like, yo, Coach Callaway's got some words for you.
Hey, call me anytime.
I feel like, because he's a super nice guy. I think you guys would have a fun.
Sure, dude. This is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not like serious really, but like,
yeah, but I'm not putting this part in.
Don't do that.
So they're just gonna think you're really pissed. That you're an asshole.
I am.
But what about outlook for the rest of the season? Let's start getting into more NCAA stuff. So, Peter, who do you guys have this weekend? Let's touch on that first, and then we'll get into overall.
So UC San Diego on Friday. So we just play them once. So
home or away?
Away. So
do you guys fly, or are you busing that?
We're flying. It would be like probably a 6-hour bus. But it's like an hour flight, maybe a little over. So yeah,
it's probably cheaper too. Flying. Even though you got to get a bunch of flights, I mean, it's probably cheaper if you think about gas and food that you're gonna have to pay for that much. Like,
renting out like a charter bus or whatever. I'm not entirely sure what all the numbers are. Luckily that's not my job, but yeah. So
I'm the numbers guy.
Yeah, you don't want me as the numbers guy, but if Peter Russell was your numbers guy, I could probably do something.
Oh gosh, no, Peter would be so funny. Hey, we're taking a bus, y'all.
Peter would be funny.
I blow the whole budget on like a charter plane. That's what would happen. Just
Um,
one time
So guys, we're
live
playing
like a
naked.
millionaire.
We had to sell our uniforms so we could get this private jet to our next game. No rules.
That was youthful. That was youthful, Pete.
Yeah.
We'll slightly changed.
All right. Well, UC San Diego is pretty solid this year. What's their rank? Where are they ranked?
They're 8, so another top 10.
You said you're 6, right?
Yeah.
Penn State
So
was 5.
yeah, now they're
Penn State's
4.
3 now.
Oh, they're
3.
3.
Here, rifle off
Yeah.
the top. The top
Were they
10,
4
if
and
you got 'em
4 and
counted.
off the block, whatever maybe?
They
So
were
the
they were-
coaches poll is
Yeah.
Hawaii, UCLA, Penn State, Pep, Long Beach, Grand Canyon, Lewis, UCSD, Loyola, and BYU is 10. And then the media polls: Hawaii, Penn State, UCLA, Pep, Long Beach, Lewis, Grand Canyon, Loyola, UC San Diego, and USC is 10.
Long Beach is slipping down there. I mean, obviously, the past couple or the years when they had DeFalco and stuff, they were top 1 or 2 every time. It was them in Hawaii until recently. But Long Beach has a couple of really strong players. They got that Libero Mason, who's pretty dirty. He seems like he's stepped into the role. I think it's going to be his first year starting, maybe second, but it seems like he's got his shit together. And then they got that kid Spencer Oliver, who's got a gnarly arm, insane arm. Have you seen him?
And then they've got the Bulgarian freshman too.
That guy too. Yeah, that
The
big
beast. Yeah, they'll be fine. I mean, they're going to be competitive.
Do you think 5? Do you think 5's fair for them, or do you think that they should be like top 2, top 3?
I don't know who they played yet. So I mean, if they haven't really played anybody,
I think
then
Erskine
will,
for
like prove it. I mean, the big thing. Exactly. I mean,
They beat a strung out Erskine.
yeah, on the end of a double, or whatever it was. I mean, I think that I also don't think that the numbers necessarily matter at all right now. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
No, I agree.
They're
Like,
gonna
it's
change so much
obviously
throughout
going
the
to
year,
change, but I was just
Yeah.
thinking, I was like, wonder, because I mean, there also is the possibility that maybe it doesn't change. Maybe that's exactly where everybody finishes this year. Is it likely? Probably not, but like,
I mean, yeah, I'm sure though. I mean, in that league, like in the MPSF or the Big West, anyone can in that conference can pretty much beat anybody else. I mean, it's a very, very competitive, I mean, like we said, you don't even, I guess Jay Callaway, do you remember this? Jay basically told us one time, I think we dropped the first set to, I think it was Ball State. And he just said basically like, you don't get to win. Like you don't get to just like walk on the court and win the match.
No,
like you always have to go out and prove it. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I just remember that. I was like, that's deep. But yeah, I mean, you got to go out and perform and execute. And sometimes teams just, out there, they're just also talented for the most part. So I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of moving around in the Big West.
Yeah, I'm sure quite a few teams will move around a little bit. It'll be exciting to see how the season goes.
Yeah. But I think for now, Long Beach is for sure top 5. You said they're 5th right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Top 5. I mean,
yeah. Who do you feel is the strongest team in the MIVA this year?
MIVA, to be honest, I haven't gotten to see a ton. It would not surprise me though if probably hit Loyola is my guess. I know Lewis graduated some people, lost some people from last year's team. I mean, they're well coached.
Didn't Loyola? They lost to somebody recently? Who'd they get beat by?
Not
see
sure.
If I can find it.
They did lose. They're 2-2 actually.
Who they lost to?
But yeah, Lewis and Loyola are both ranked, so I'm sure they're both solid.
Yeah. What are they, like 7 and 9 or something like that in the AVCA?
Something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, those are usually the top ones. I think Ohio State has some potential, but I think they're still pretty young and kind of figuring some things out. So I don't know. Those teams are kind of dangerous because they have the potential to just go off kind of any given night sometimes. So
I wonder how many, if any, teams just had like super young talent and went. Like that's not a very common thing in volleyball to have like a bunch of young studs on your roster and go. It's very much a sport where like it's if you're a senior dominated team and the culture is good and they started off good, then usually they end up usually that's who your national champion is. So like a bunch of seniors, and like well-rounded, of course, obviously, but like if you look at basketball or football, like so many people leave after a couple of years of school. So it is actually dominated by like freshmen. Those teams are often national champions, or they're losing to like those rare teams that stick together throughout all of college.
Yeah. And Loyola got smoked by Hawaii twice and then beat St. Francis and NJIT. UC Irvine also recently got upset by somebody. But before I go into that, I want to just make it verbal that whoever makes college men's volleyball's websites for like every school I've ever seen, fuck you. Because all these websites are so hard to navigate. It's so annoying sometimes, dude. Like it takes you the roster, but then you have to go like all the way back to the main page, go back into sports, go back to men's volleyball, just to then switch from the roster to the schedule. It's like, why is it not its own fucking page? It drives me up a wall, dude.
So this has been an aggressive episode right now.
It has been.
Coming after people.
I'm in it again. And like all of them are the same. I swear to fucking God.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm only smiling and
I'm not. I'll be openly angry and pissed off.
I just think it's funny. Not wrong. I mean,
but
well, that's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my life.
Oh yeah, they lost to Stanford. They lost to Stanford. That's who they got upset by. Stanford. That's another interesting one to look into.
Is that why they got upset?
No. Good one. No, but Stanford, that's also interesting to look into. Like, I mean, UCI has a really solid team normally, and I think that it's no different this year. They're always solid. And I mean, Stanford had the whole up and down with getting canceled or not. Like, I wonder how many people they were able to bring back and how many left. And like, I guess they have some good recruits in now if they're beating UC Irvine.
Again, just what a knucklehead nightmare, Stanford. Way to go. Way to just really drop the ball on that. Let's just cut a bunch of sports, make a big hoo-ha about the whole thing. And then we'll just add them back. Yeah, we fucked up, guys. That's a really bad idea.
Go get them.
Who's responsible for all the decisions in this country?
Let's not get into that. Guys? It's kind of wild though, man. Our first episode was like right after that first was announced, pretty much, right?
I know. It literally was. Yeah, we're like, oh, this would be sick. Let's get Jalen on.
Yeah. Man, lots changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seriously, they're back, and Jalen's now over at Pepperdine, which is also weird.
Sounds like it's time to get him back on.
Yeah, he actually probably would be good to have back on again. Because Pepperdine, don't they have like a 25-man roster? Like they have a ton of people on their roster.
Maybe. I never understood how teams did that. I never understood. I guess they don't. Maybe if they don't have football teams, they can do it.
Bro, Charleston, we did it. We had it my freshman year. My freshman year in Charleston, we had it, and we were like, "Oh, cool!" Like we get there's like 25 people, and our coach was talking about doing like a first team and a second team, but like legit first team and second team. Like second team would have their own schedule, first team would have like their own schedule. And we were like, everybody was like, "What the fuck is this about?"
How do you?
Bro, I don't even know. I don't even know where this guy's theories were coming from, but he got fired at the end of that year, obviously, because he was terrible. And then when our new coach came in, he was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen." He said, "You guys have like, there's just so much cost. And like, there's so many guys that are never going to touch the court." And our second coach, honestly, like he piped through some people pretty quick. He had a lot of guys quit. He like not fired. I don't know what to say. Cut a bunch of guys.
It's not easy starting a program. That's for sure.
No, it's not. But I was like, it was just still so bizarre. I was like, why would you even try to do that? I guess for tuition purposes, because if you bring it in 25 guys, it's 25 guys paying tuition. Maybe they have like certain goals to meet. I don't know. It's weird, but
maybe if you're starting the program too, you're just looking for anybody. Just can't maybe necessarily be like terribly picky at that point. Trying to get. And then, because you don't, I mean, at that point, you don't really know what they're like. You don't really know if they're going to stay eligible, if they're going to be idiots and like do dumb shit on the weekends. Like,
True.
so yeah, at that
That
point, you're
guy's only
probably
got
like,
one arm. Well, he's got two legs.
well, like,
We'll
I
take
don't know,
it.
man.
Like a
Think
team
about it, like
like
in the,
Pepperdine, though, they got a lot of history, a lot of good
that's
players. Like,
true.
I don't get
So it's
why they
different.
would.
Well, isn't what they
Different.
call that at UCLA like the blue curtain or some shit like that?
What was it called?
You know, UCLA I don't know if this is still the same way, but I remember hearing about how they had a ton of people on there in their gym, you know, and it was called like the blue curtain, like a parody of the Iron Curtain in Europe. And it's just like there was a bunch of people that like, yeah, you're on the UCLA team, but like you're on the other side. You're in the practice player gym. And maybe someday, if you're lucky and everything goes your way and you work really hard, and you can come play with the big boys.
Well,
so some teams do that, but
I mean, I just don't get it. It also just seems like a waste of some players' times. Like if you're bringing in 25 kids, those bottom 5, and that's being generous because in reality, it's probably like bottom like 10. If you have 25 people, that bottom 10 like is most likely never going to see the court. You know,
well,
like you could just be wasting their time.
This is the way I think about it. If I had a team, like if I was a coach of a team that had 25 roster spots, I'm recruiting entirely differently. I'm not recruiting 25 people that are like all potentially going to play. I'm recruiting like more like what women's programs do. They bring in a ton of DSs and then they play all the DSs against the starters. You know, like you have like a feeder for who's going to start for your program, and you're recruiting people to do that, but you're also recruiting people for other roles. So as long as as a coach, you're being very transparent about your expectations of them and like where you see them, you know, like as you're recruiting them, like, hey, like I see you as a practice player for us or doing this. That doesn't mean they can't, you know, level up and become a starter. But, you know, I just think that if I had 25 roster spots, then I'd be recruiting people specifically to go against the starters and think about it that way versus just like 25 people that are all fighting for spots and not getting a bunch of playing time in practice.
True. Also, I was just scrolling through Charleston's roster too, because I wanted to see their schedule, because I wanted to see when they started and blah, 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 because of the COVID cancellations and stuff. I just remembered that Joel Braswell is actually at Charleston. Steve and Luke's brother, the youngest Braswell, he's playing for Charleston.
Really?
Yeah, I completely forgot about that, but I was like, oh, that's sweet. Hell yeah. Screw Penn State and St. Francis. Go Birds, baby.
You just loped up, man.
I know, dude. I got, because when I would always come home, Will Schwob was obviously with Grand Canyon, and I would always like bust his balls and like do the little lope sign to Will. And then it became a thing that I just started doing all the time. And I would always say lopes down to like bust Will's balls. But now Peter's there. So now I'm walking around doing this. I'm always saying lopes up. So that's a positive, Peter. I'm a fan of GCU now. All right. I used to hate him, but now because of you, I'm a big guy, big fan, big purple and white, I think is your guys' other color, purple and cream.
Mostly just purple, but yeah.
All right, Barney.
But I thought that was interesting. Braswell's 3 different EIVA schools, which is sweet. Peter, how many are you guys going to play in that main arena? Because you guys have a very insane, sick arena at GCU. And then you obviously have your own volleyball court too.
I think all of them, at least, are supposed to. I don't know if something might change, but as far as I know, we're in the arena.
That's so sick.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty cool. We get to park like in the little like loading dock, I guess. Like, and so I'm like driving my like the old ass like 2000 Ranger, just driving the truck like
the old truck,
pulling it in like almost feeling like a VIP.
Yeah. What would typically be like a Mercedes-Benz pulling into player parking is Peter and his dingy, beat up old beautiful truck.
Wonderful. I love that thing.
I love that truck. I miss it. But okay. Well, Peter, here's one more thing to kind of last touch on. So you said back in the beginning when we started the podcast, you said that you were like felt nervous again, like kind of nervous, like when you were playing.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. I feel like I would never be even close to as nervous to coach as I am to play, but I wanted to get your view. Did you feel like the nervousness was like equal? Like
more. for
Really?
me. It's
Oh,
more nervous to coach,
okay.
which is the weirdest thing. I think it's because
Really?
there's so much less in my control. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, bro,
Oh, 100%. I was getting like weird
To-
nerves coaching high school JV. I was like, what's happening right now? I was like, I
Oh.
literally have played in the Final Four before and I was less nervous.
when I've coached like club in high school, I've had like zero nerves. I'm just like, man,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't.
this was like the first year that I felt like nerves about it. And I was like, why is this happening? And it definitely had something to do with like people just not listening. So it makes it very hard to like control the outcome of a match.
Peter?
And I was like, ah,
I understand that. That's a good point, but for me, it was definitely more nerve-wracking as a player. I think just because of like for me, it was like I hate feeling like I've let people down, like people that are close to me. And like I don't want to like be the reason that
True.
my teammates like lose as well, right? Like
Yeah, I
for
agree.
one, I hate losing, but like I don't know when
you
that's I
really
guess like
hate
the
when you make
first.
other people lose. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was kind of my like when I was a freshman, dude. Like honestly, the first time I got called into a match was against UCLA. It was in the outrigger, and they served me like 3 balls. I got ace twice, and like had a bad 2 pass for like the other one. And I was literally like my knees were shaking. Like so that was like what I was feeling. And then like as I got older, I like figured out like how to just like let that stuff go and just like trust myself, and then like just enjoy competing. I guess is the best way to like put it. So. Adventure's
I
different,
feel like
but
When he
yeah, like
just
dude, I feel
goes,
like that was so many people's like first experience playing for like
yep, there
Division
you
One
go.
volleyball. It's like starter wasn't doing great, pissing myself, went in. Everyone knows I'm getting served, including me, and I know I'm the worst passer of the three. So here we go.
Yep. Yep.
when you
Shank.
said you said I got 3 balls, got ace twice. I was like, oh shit.
Dude,
That's a
I'm
hell
pretty
of a
sure
stat
that
line.
Yeah, it's
the third
not an
ball,
ideal situation.
I'm pretty sure the third ball, like if I remember correctly, the third ball was like not even close to out of bounds. I just didn't even want to pass it. I just was like, fuck that. Hopefully it's out. And like I just remember Dennis Del Valle just looking at me like so disgusted.
uh,
Sorry.
Stupid American.
That's hilarious. I would okay,
Um,
so I agree with you, Peter, but I would say if I were like the head coach of Grand Canyon in my first match, I would probably be
Yeah.
nervous then, or just over my
that's what
first
it is too,
season.
actually.
Because like,
Yeah.
but it's also like, and at the high school level, if I was the head coach, I wouldn't be as pressed because one, you're not really, it's not your main job most likely. It's kind of, and I feel like athletic directors in high school are very easily pleased as long as like kids aren't coming with complaints. Like it's probably pretty easy. But in college, you're expected to win, and like at a school
Right.
where Grand Canyon, where they're a big athletic school, and they spend a lot of money on their programs, and they expect to be ranked certain places. Like I feel like, I mean, Worley would probably be the best to speak on it, but also he's done a great job at making GCU a much better program than what it was. But like, man, I feel like I would be nervous for that one if I was the head coach, because then I would get that feeling like you're talking about, Callaway, because then I have my assistant coaches to worry about, my GAs to worry about, and the guys to worry about, and it all falls on my head because I'm the head coach, like right now,
Exactly.
Peter, and not saying that Peter doesn't have responsibility in the team's outcome, but like if the team tanks, they're not going to be looking at the GA to blame or to fire from it. They're going to be looking at Worley or maybe even Keith a little bit, but most like Keith probably doesn't even have as much stress. So I feel like that would give me a ton of nerves, would be doing the head coach.
No, it's funny you brought that up,
top
actually.
10 like that.
Yeah, I think that's
right. It's funny you brought that up because this was the first time I like fully had a team. There's like, I didn't have an assistant. I didn't have anything. So it was like, maybe that had something to do with it as well, even though it was high school. Because any other time I've assistant coached, I'm like, I'm just having a blast, really. I'm like, yeah, I get to like look at this kind of thing. I don't have like any pressure to like control anyone or the subs and all that stuff. It's just like just coaching and watching the game, really, which is always fun. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, head coaches, it's like you're a lot more involved. It's almost like you can impact the game a lot more with assistant like observations you have. You can communicate that to the head coach, obviously, but ultimately it's his decision.
Yeah, there's no pressure. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to give him this information. You can either take it or not. And I'm literally off the hook either way, So yeah, that kind of makes sense, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hey, big yawn there. Yeah, that does suck though when you're the head coach and like, but bro, it's also crazy because you get fired. That's That's your salary just gone out of nowhere. If they're like, hey man, you were one game away from winning enough to make us happy this year, but you lost, so bye to your like $80,000 a year salary and go find a new place to go. It's like that would suck. That would suck a lot.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. Yeah, in the occupation.
Peter's like over there sweating bullets now. He's like, Jesus Christ, am I going to get fired?
I didn't think about all this stuff.
Peter's like, I thought it was just for fun. He's like, I thought it was like club. Do you really think colleges care that much?
Winning? Why would they care about that?
Yeah. Here for an education. All right, well, you guys got anything to finish up on? I feel like that about wraps this up.
No.
Well,
lots of good matches this weekend. Keep watching volleyball.
Yeah. Keep watching the volleyball, supporting the men's league out here.
True.
I got some exciting news, 4 to 4 family. I am going to be a dad. So do the 4 to 4 fam a favor and hit that subscribe button below. Share it. Follow us on YouTube, all the Instagram, Apple, and Spotify. So hit it up for Daddy Callaway. Thank you, guys.